My dad sacrificed my future to favor his friend's son. Now they're paying the price. I never thought I'd be writing this, honestly. It's one of those things where you look back and think, how did I even end up here? But here we are. I'm 28 now, and the older I get, the more I realize how much my past messed me up. Not in a woe is me kind of way, but like, looking back, it's obvious how everything played out. Most of it boils down to one person, my dad. I was born into a situation that wasn't exactly ideal. My mom left right after she had me. Not like she died or anything, but literally packed her stuff and disappeared. No warning, no note, nothing. One day she's in the hospital with me and the next day gone. No one even knows where she went. And yeah, I've heard all the usual stories about moms being overwhelmed, not ready for kids, or just not in a good mental place, but none of that mattered to me growing up. All I knew was she wasn't there, and somehow that made me the villain in my dad's eyes. From as early as I can remember, my dad had this resentment towards me. It was subtle at first, like he'd just be distant, cold, and pretty much emotionless. As a kid, I didn't get it, but as I got older, I realized it wasn't just that he was cold. He flat out hated me. Why? Because I looked like her. I never knew her, but from the pictures I've seen, the resemblance is uncanny. And I guess every time he looked at me, all he could think about was her walking out on him. That's a hell of a burden to put on a kid, though, right? Growing up in that house felt like walking on eggshells. But the worst part? I never knew what I was doing wrong. I was just being a kid, trying to get by. But to him, I was just a constant reminder of the woman who left. It's not like he was abusive or anything, not in the traditional sense. But the lack of any warmth or affection that messes with you in ways you don't realize until later. I mean, sure, he made sure I was fed and clothed, but that's where the parenting stopped. No "I'm proud of you" moments, no hugs, no "how was your day" talks at the dinner table. It was just emptiness. And then there was Liam. Liam was the son of my dad's best friend. When Liam's dad died in a car accident and his mom ended up in a mental facility, my dad stepped in and took him in. Liam moved into our house when we were both around 7, and let me tell you, that's when everything shifted. You'd think maybe having another kid around would lighten the mood or give me someone to hang out with. But nah, Liam wasn't just some other kid. He was the son my dad always wanted. The way my dad looked at Liam was like night and day compared to me. Liam was everything I wasn't. He was outgoing, confident, athletic, the kind of kid who could charm the pants off of anyone. Meanwhile, I was the quiet, introverted one. I preferred reading and keeping to myself. And in my dad's eyes, I was just a reminder of my mom's betrayal. Liam? He was the golden boy. I didn't stand a chance. I remember so many times where I'd do something I thought was impressive or worth a little attention, but my dad wouldn't even blink. Like one time I spent weeks working on this science project for school. It was a full solar system model that could actually rotate. Pretty cool for a kid, right? I thought, this is it. This will finally get him to notice me. So I came home, excited to show him, but he was sitting on the couch with Liam, watching some football game. I told him about the project, but all I got was a half-hearted nod before he turned back to the TV. It was like I wasn't even there. Meanwhile, Liam could literally do anything and get praise. He could make a half-decent drawing in school, and my dad would hang it on the fridge like it was a masterpiece. The double standards were insane. It wasn't just that he favored Liam, it was that he didn't even try to hide it. I think the worst part wasn't even the obvious favoritism, but the fact that I kept trying. I kept thinking, if I can just do this or that, he'll finally notice me. He'll finally care. But nope, nothing was ever enough. As we got older, it only got worse. Liam and I went to the same school, and even though I did better academically, it didn't matter. Liam was the athlete, the popular one. I was the kid with good grades, but that didn't count for much in my dad's world. He'd say things like, well, grades don't mean everything, or Liam's got bigger things to focus on. It was like nothing I did mattered unless it could be tied to Liam's achievements. He was always the main event, and I was just the opening act no one cared about. I can't tell you how many times I sat in my room, wondering what was wrong with me. Why couldn't I be more like Liam? Why wasn't I enough? But the thing is, it was never about me. I didn't realize it back then, but it was always about him, about my dad's inability to deal with his own crap. He never got over my mom leaving, and instead of dealing with that, he just dumped all that resentment on me. And Liam? I don't even blame him. He was just a kid like me. But the way my dad treated him, he probably thought he was some kind of superhero. And why wouldn't he? My dad made him feel like the center of the universe, while I was just some background character. Looking back now, I can see how messed up the whole situation was. But as a kid, you don't really get that. You just keep trying, hoping that one day things will change. Maybe one day your dad will look at you the way he looks at the other kid. But that day never came for me. And that's how it was for years. Just me, in the shadow of my mom and Liam. It wasn't until much later that I finally realized I had to stop trying to earn something I was never going to get. He was the golden child. My dad acted like Liam was this gift from the universe or something, like he was this perfect son that he'd always wanted. And honestly, it was like I wasn't even there anymore. I'd come home from school and they'd be sitting on the couch laughing and watching TV like I didn't even exist. My dad started doing all this stuff with Liam that he never did with me. They'd go to football games, fishing trips, even camping once, stuff I never even got asked to do. I remember sitting in my room sometimes, listening to them in the living room, just wondering why I was never included. It's like I wasn't part of the family. But here's the thing. It wasn't just that my dad ignored me. He actively compared me to Liam, like all the time. Why can't you be more like Liam? Liam wouldn't do that. Look at how well Liam handles himself. It was like I was always falling short of some invisible standard that I never even agreed to. Liam was good at sports? Great. That doesn't mean I have to be. But in my dad's eyes, I wasn't allowed to be my own person. If Liam was the athletic, outgoing one, then that's who I was supposed to be too. And the worst part? I tried. I really did. I thought maybe if I tried to be more like Liam, my dad would finally notice me or treat me like I mattered. So I signed up for the basketball team, even though I wasn't really into sports. I figured, if Liam can do it, maybe I can too. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. I wasn't as good as Liam. I wasn't as fast, as strong, or as confident. One time, I actually had a decent game, scored a couple of points, made a few good plays. I came home feeling pretty good about myself, thinking maybe this time my dad would say something. But when I walked through the door, he was already talking to Liam about his game, like mine didn't even happen. I tried to tell him about what I did, but he just said something like, "That's nice," and went right back to his conversation with Liam. It wasn't just sports either. Liam could get a B on a test, and my dad would act like he cured cancer. Meanwhile, I'd be busting my ass to get straight A's, and he'd barely even acknowledge it. I'm not saying I was perfect or anything, but I tried, you know? I tried to make him proud, but no matter what I did, I was always a step behind Liam. And then there was school. We went to the same school, but people treated us completely differently. Liam was the guy. Everyone liked him, teachers included. He was the guy who walked into a room and people noticed. Me? I was just Liam's weird, quiet brother, or the kid with the books. It didn't help that my dad would constantly praise Liam in front of everyone like he was this miracle child. It was like I couldn't escape it, at home or at school. Everywhere I went, Liam was the one people wanted to be around, and I was just there. One day in high school, during a parent-teacher conference, my English teacher told my dad that I'd written one of the best essays she'd ever read. She said I had real talent and that I could be a great writer if I stuck with it. I felt a small surge of hope, like maybe this would be the thing that finally made my dad proud. But nope. My dad barely even looked up from his phone. He asked if it would help me get a scholarship for sports, and then shrugged when the teacher tried to explain that not everything was about sports. I could feel my face burning with embarrassment. It's like my accomplishments didn't even register on his radar unless they were the same kind Liam could achieve. That's how it was for years. No matter how hard I tried, Liam was always the one. I could spend weeks on a project and my dad wouldn't care. Liam could scribble something on a piece of paper and my dad would act like it was a masterpiece. It was like living in a shadow all the time, constantly trying to measure up to this person who wasn't even trying. The thing is, I don't even blame Liam for most of it. He was just being himself. He didn't ask for my dad to treat him like a king, and he wasn't going out of his way to make me feel bad. He was just living his life, doing his thing. But that didn't make it hurt any less. I spent so much of my childhood and teenage years wondering why I wasn't good enough, wondering what I had to do to finally get my dad to look at me the way he looked at Liam. It's like I wasn't even a person to him, just a constant reminder of my mom and her betrayal. And maybe that's the heart of it. I think my dad saw me as her. Every time he looked at me, he didn't see me. He saw the woman who walked out on him, the woman who left without a word. And instead of dealing with that pain, he took it out on me. He couldn't be mad at her, so he was mad at me. He couldn't tell her she ruined his life, so he told me that I wasn't good enough. And Liam? Liam was just the perfect distraction from all of it. He was the escape my dad needed from the reality of our situation. Looking back, I can see it now, but at the time, I didn't. I just thought I wasn't good enough. I spent years trying to be someone I wasn't, trying to be more like Liam, because I thought maybe that would make my dad love me. I thought if I could just be better, smarter, stronger, maybe things would change. But they didn't. The thing that sticks with me the most, though, is the fact that I never gave up trying. I kept thinking that one day it would all click, that one day my dad would see me for who I was, not just the kid who looked like his ex, but that day never came. I wish I could say things got better, but the truth is they didn't. Not for a long time. So after years of living in Liam's shadow and feeling like I'd never be good enough, I did what any kid in my situation would probably do. I gave up. I stopped trying to win my dad's approval because it became clear that nothing was ever going to change. No matter how many times I tried to impress him, it was always the same story. Liam was the favorite, and I was just there. I spent my teenage years basically coasting. I got decent grades, stayed out of trouble, and tried to fly under the radar as much as possible. But it was hard to completely ignore the constant comparisons. Every time I overheard my dad bragging to someone about Liam, it was like a punch in the gut. And when I finally left home, I thought I was done with all of it. Done with my dad, done with Liam, done with feeling like I didn't matter. That didn't last long, though. See, after I left, Liam and my dad got even closer. It was like without me there as a reminder of my mom, my dad could fully focus on his real son. They started spending even more time together, doing things I didn't really care to know about. At some point, I heard they started a business together. I didn't pay much attention to it at first because, honestly, I was just trying to figure out my own life at that point. I guess it started out small, just something local that wasn't meant to be anything big. From what little I picked up, it seemed like Liam came up with the idea, and my dad jumped in with both feet because, well, Liam could do no wrong. I'm not sure what the business even was exactly, but knowing Liam, it was probably something flashy. Maybe some kind of startup or side hustle that sounded way more impressive than it actually was. All I knew was that my dad was funding it completely, using whatever savings he had left. I wasn't part of their world anymore, but I could still hear bits and pieces from people who knew them. Every once in a while, I'd hear how well the business was doing, how Liam was going places, and making big moves. And every time, I felt that same familiar sting, the feeling that I was still just sitting on the sidelines while Liam was living the life I was never going to have. But then things started to change. I didn't know the full story at first, but something was off. People stopped mentioning Liam and the business as much. The updates I used to hear about their amazing success were starting to dry up. It was like the buzz around them was fading, and no one really talked about it anymore. I didn't think much of it, though, because I had my own stuff going on. Plus, I wasn't exactly in a rush to reconnect with my dad and Liam. Then one day, I got a phone call. The number wasn't saved in my phone, so I almost didn't pick up, but something told me to answer, and when I did, I was hit with a voice I hadn't heard in years. My dad. The second I heard his voice, my stomach dropped. I hadn't spoken to him in what felt like forever, and I could tell right away something was wrong. He didn't sound like the same confident, almost arrogant guy I remembered. He sounded defeated. I didn't even know what to say at first. He tried to make small talk, asking how I'd been, but it was awkward, like we were two strangers who had nothing in common, which, to be fair, was pretty much the truth at that point. Then he got to the point. He told me that things had gone bad with the business, real bad. Apparently, Liam had taken all the savings and run off. Just like that, gone. Everything my dad had invested, everything he'd worked for, it was all gone. Liam took it and disappeared. I didn't know how to react. I mean, part of me was shocked, but another part of me wasn't surprised at all. Liam had always been good at charming people, and I guess my dad finally learned that the hard way. What really got me, though, was that my dad was asking me for help. After years of treating me like I didn't matter, of making me feel like I was second place to Liam, now he was reaching out. Now, when everything had fallen apart, I was supposed to step in and save him? I couldn't believe it. My dad spent years ignoring me, favoring Liam, and suddenly he wanted me to fix things? He told me about how he was in debt, how everything was falling apart, and how he didn't know what to do. He sounded desperate, like he had nowhere else to turn. But the whole time, all I could think was, where was this when I needed him? When I asked why he wasn't asking Liam for help, he got quiet. He mumbled something about Liam not being around anymore, about how he didn't know where Liam went. My dad had poured everything into this business, and now he had nothing to show for it. I guess he finally realized what it felt like to be left behind. But you know what? I didn't feel bad for him. I should have, maybe. But I didn't. Because for years, that's exactly how he made me feel. Like I didn't matter. Like I was just an afterthought. And now he was coming to me because Liam, his golden child, had bailed on him. The irony wasn't lost on me. I didn't give him an answer right away. I told him I needed time to think, but deep down, I already knew what I was going to do. After hanging up the phone, I just sat there for a while, thinking about everything. All the years I spent trying to make my dad proud, all the times I tried to be enough. And now he needed me. It felt like some twisted joke. But I wasn't the same kid anymore, and this time I wasn't going to fall into the same trap. I had my own life to live now, and this time I was going to do things my way. So, after that phone call, I was left with a lot to think about. My dad had come to me, asking for help, which was wild in itself. After years of making me feel like I was just some background character in his life, now he needed me. And the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I mean, where was he when I needed help? When I was working late nights just to keep my head above water? When I was struggling to figure out what the hell to do with my life after dropping out of college because I couldn't afford it? He didn't care then. He never reached out, never asked if I was okay. And now, because Liam had bailed and his golden boy wasn't around to save him, I was suddenly important. It didn't sit right with me at all. The more I replayed that conversation in my head, the more I realized something. This was the first time in my life where I had the upper hand. For years, I was the one begging for his attention, his approval, and now the roles had reversed. But here's the thing. I didn't want his approval anymore. I didn't need it. I had spent years trying to prove myself, trying to be enough for him. But after that phone call, it was like everything clicked for me. I didn't owe him anything. I wasn't responsible for fixing the mess he and Liam had created. He made his choices, and I made mine. And my choice was to stand my ground. Over the next few days, my phone blew up with texts from him. At first, he tried to guilt me, saying things like, "I don't know what I'm going to do, and you're my only hope." It was honestly pathetic. This was the same man who once told me to man up when I was struggling with something. And now he was acting like a lost puppy because Liam had screwed him over. I didn't respond at first. I needed to sort through my own thoughts before I said anything. Part of me wanted to just cut him off completely, but another part of me felt bad. I mean, he was still my dad, and as much as he'd messed up, a tiny part of me still cared. Not enough to bail him out financially, but enough to consider talking to him. But every time I thought about picking up the phone, I remembered all the times I'd needed him and he wasn't there. When I was younger, I'd look at him and wonder why he didn't care. Why he never bothered to ask how I was doing or if I needed anything. And now he was asking me for help? It just didn't sit right with me. I kept thinking about one specific memory. It was from high school, right after I had gotten my first real job. I was working part-time at a local grocery store, bagging groceries and stocking shelves. It wasn't anything special, but I was proud of it because it was my job. I was earning my own money, even if it wasn't much. I remember coming home that first day excited to tell my dad about it. I thought maybe this would be one of those rare moments where he'd actually be proud of me. But of course, when I told him, all he said was, "That's nice. Is Liam still playing football this season?" It was like no matter what I did, Liam was always the focus. I couldn't even have my own small wins without them being overshadowed by whatever Liam was doing. That memory stuck with me through those days after the phone call. It was a constant reminder that I had always been second place in his life. And now, he was only reaching out because he had no one else. Not because he cared about me, not because he wanted to rebuild our relationship, but because he needed something from me. And I wasn't going to fall for it. Eventually, I decided to respond. I didn't want to leave him hanging forever, but I also wasn't going to just give him what he wanted. I took a deep breath and texted him back, something along the lines of, "I'm sorry you're going through this, but I can't help you financially. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I can't jeopardize that. I hope you find a solution." It was short, simple, and to the point. I didn't owe him a long explanation. I wasn't going to dive into a whole conversation about how he'd treated me over the years. That wasn't going to change anything. I just needed to be clear that I wasn't his safety net. After I sent the message, I felt a weird mix of emotions. On one hand, I felt guilty. I mean, he was still my dad, and part of me wanted to help. But on the other hand, I felt relieved. For the first time in my life, I had said no to him. I had set a boundary, and I wasn't backing down. I didn't hear back from him right away, which was honestly a relief. I think I needed some space to process everything. But I also knew he wasn't the type to let things go easily. Sure enough, a few days later, he called again. This time, I let it go to voicemail. I wasn't ready to talk to him yet. When I listened to the voicemail later, it was more of the same. He apologized again, said he wished things had been different, but he really needed my help. He even said he regretted some of the things he'd done in the past, but the way he said it didn't feel genuine. It felt like he was just saying whatever he thought would get me to give him money, and I wasn't falling for it. The thing is, I wasn't the same person I was when I lived under his roof. Back then, I would have jumped at the chance to help, thinking maybe this would finally make him love me, make him proud. But now? Now, I knew better. I didn't need his approval anymore. I didn't need to save him to feel like I was worth something. I had built my own life, without his help, and I wasn't going to sacrifice everything I'd worked for just because Liam had run off with his money. I had finally taken control of my own life, but I knew this wasn't over. My dad wasn't the type to give up easily, and I had a feeling there was more to come. Things went quiet for a bit. At first it was kind of weird, like this weight had been lifted off my shoulders but also left this empty space where all that stress used to be. I guess I expected him to keep pushing, to keep blowing up my phone or sending guilt-trippy messages. But nothing happened. Days went by, then weeks, and nothing. A part of me was relieved. I thought, maybe he's finally getting the message. Maybe he's finally understanding that I'm not going to bail him out. But another part of me felt off about it, like I wasn't used to him not being in my head, you know? For so long, I'd been trying to prove myself, trying to get his attention, and now I didn't need to do any of that. It felt strange. Life went on, though. I kept working my job, kept taking night classes, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally getting somewhere. My friends noticed too. They'd say stuff like, "You seem more relaxed lately," or "You've been in a better mood these days." And they were right. I had been carrying around this baggage for years, and now that I'd finally set boundaries with my dad, it felt like I could breathe. But of course, it didn't stay quiet forever. A few weeks later, my phone rang. I saw the number pop up, and it was my dad again. This time, I hesitated. I almost let it go to voicemail, like I'd done before, but something in me said to pick up. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe I just wanted closure. So I answered. He sounded different this time. Less desperate, more tired. He didn't jump right into asking for money again, which was a surprise. Instead, he started talking about the past, about how he knew he hadn't been the best dad, about how he regretted not being there for me. It wasn't the first time he'd apologized, but this time, it felt a little different. It felt like he actually meant it, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the feeling that he was only saying it because things had gone bad for him. He told me more about what had happened with Liam. How Liam had taken everything, not just the savings, but also the business they built together. Apparently, Liam had been planning it for a while, pulling money out of the account here and there, making moves behind my dad's back. By the time my dad realized what was happening, it was too late. Liam was gone, and so was all the money. As he was telling me all of this, I couldn't help but think about all the times my dad had chosen Liam over me. All the times he had praised Liam, supported Liam, and completely ignored everything I'd done. And now here he was, left with nothing because of the person he'd put on a pedestal for so many years. I felt bad for him, but I couldn't bring myself to feel that bad. He had made his bed, and now he had to lie in it. I listened to him talk, but I didn't offer any sympathy. I think he picked up on that because after a while he stopped talking about Liam and just said, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to let you know what happened." And that was it. He didn't ask for money, didn't try to guilt me into anything. It was almost like he knew this was the end of the line. Like he'd finally realized I wasn't going to swoop in and save him from his own mistakes. After we hung up, I sat there for a while just thinking about everything. It was weird. I had spent so many years wanting him to admit he'd screwed up, wanting him to apologize, and now that he had, I didn't know how to feel. I thought maybe it would bring me some kind of closure, but instead it just felt empty, like it didn't really change anything. He had still spent most of my life treating me like I was second place. He had still chosen Liam over me at every turn. And now, just because things had gone bad for him, he wanted to make things right? It didn't work that way. The thing is, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't holding on to the resentment or the hurt like I used to. I had moved past all of that, but at the same time, I wasn't going to forget it. You can't just apologize and expect everything to go back to normal, especially when normal was never good to begin with. So, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cut him off completely, but I also wasn't going to let him back in. I'd keep my distance, stay polite if he reached out, but that was it. No more trying to win his approval, No more trying to fix things that couldn't be fixed. In the weeks after that call, I kept moving forward. I focused on my job, my classes, and my friends. I started to realize that I didn't need my dad's validation anymore. I had built a life for myself, a life I was proud of, and I didn't need anyone's approval to keep going. I thought a lot about what could have been, how different things might have been if my dad had been there for me when I was growing up. Maybe I wouldn't have had to work so hard to prove myself. Maybe I wouldn't have had to struggle through so many things on my own. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that those struggles had made me who I am. Sure, my dad wasn't there when I needed him, and yeah, that sucked. But I learned how to take care of myself. I learned how to push through tough times, how to keep going even when things felt impossible. And now, I was stronger because of it. So, in a way, I guess I owe him something. Not for being a good dad, but for forcing me to become the person I am today. I built my life without him, and now, I don't need him to complete it. Update. So, I found out recently that Liam, the guy who was basically treated like my dad's son, ended up in jail. I wasn't really surprised, to be honest. After everything he pulled with my dad, it seemed like only a matter of time before his schemes caught up with him. Turns out, after he took off with all the money from their business, he tried to pull another scam, this time on someone who wasn't as forgiving as my dad. Apparently, Liam thought he could take the money he'd stolen and start something new, but it didn't go as planned. From what I've heard, he tried to scam some other guy out of a large amount of money. Only this time, he got caught. The guy figured out what was going on and pressed charges. Before Liam knew it, he was in handcuffs and facing a serious legal situation. I'll admit, when I first heard the news, I didn't feel bad for him at all. After all, this was the same guy who walked all over my dad, took everything he could, and then vanished without a second thought. And now karma had finally caught up with him. It's kind of ironic, really. My dad had always put Liam on a pedestal, treating him like he was some perfect son, while I was the one who got left in the dust. And now here Liam was, sitting in a jail cell, while I was out here building my life, little by little. I don't know what'll happen with Liam from here, but honestly, it's not my problem. He made his choices, and now he's dealing with the consequences. Meanwhile, I'm moving forward, leaving all that behind. It's weird how things turn out sometimes. You spend your whole life thinking someone has it all figured out, only to watch them fall apart in the end. But that's not my story anymore. Liam's path is his own, and mine is finally my own too.